Day 77 of this prep. So if you guys are new to the channel, we are a week and a half out from the meet. I do all of my own programming. My big thing here is like normal training is what I like to call it. So I'm very transparent about my stuff. I feel like I go through normal ups and downs. I've got a decently normal life situations and stuff like that. So I like to be pretty transparent about my training. So right now we got close grip bench and pause squats. So we're currently still warming up a little bit for our top set today on bench. And things are moving pretty good. So I cannot find, or not even find, due to my schedule, I can't seem to get a consistent training schedule together. They're based on time of day. So we're currently working out in the mornings, at least for today. And I think Thursday we're gonna work out in the afternoon. Whatever. At a certain point, it don't matter. You just kind of need to get it done what you need to, and go from there. So today we got, it looks like we're gonna do a double at 285 on close grip. Oh, actually, we don't have pause squats. What am I talking about? We're gonna do 285 for a double, which will by far be the heaviest double that I've done before. The heaviest close grip double, I should say. So it'll be 5 pounds under though my normal, my comp grip double, which is 290. But when it comes to our peak as well, like one thing I want to say is I think there's a lot of like wrong thinking when it comes to peaking, and I've experienced this myself very heavily on two separate peaks from two ends of the spectrum. I had one where I took a lot of time off the week of. The month of the meet was very much like way lower intensity and volume than what I was doing. And on the other end, I done Juggernaut, which is notorious for very higher volumes. And I trained very hard leading up into the meet. And I basically trained like normal up until about the week of. And then it was a lot of like SBD sessions that like kind of fell in intensity. And I gotta tell you, the one where I trained leading into the meet, like basically like the meet was part of training, other than the week of, was the best meet that I've had. So that being said, I think it's really important that we understand that training for a meet does not mean that like we take a bunch of time off. Like we got to build ourselves, and we need to build incrementally, week in, week out, block by block, all that type of stuff. So when it comes to the meet itself, like there is a point where it's like, no, we can't. We can't just take like a week off. We can't take 4 days, 3 days, 2 days. Like we can't take a bunch of time off, especially if we're not used to that time. Like me, I'm training pretty much every other day. It's kind of how I do it. I don't train on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So obviously the weekends we're training at like Saturday, Sunday. We're training Tuesday and Thursday. But in the grand scheme of things, I'm kind of like I'm trying to training and taking a day off, and training and taking a day off. So when it comes to me, I don't want to have a 4-day gap between my last training session and the meet. Nor do I want my last month to be the easiest month that I've ever had. That's not really what we're looking for here. We're not really looking to
changed things up so much that our last month of training is so easy that we basically peaked too early. Because if we need to take a whole month in order to cut fatigue, we really messed up somewhere, like bad.
Before I show this top set, welcome to my channel. My name is John Mahaffey. I've been powerlifting for 5 years now. I'm kind of an amateur powerlifter, coach, enthusiast, whatever you want to call it. So my main thing here is normal training. You know, I work out in my garage gym. I'm married. I have a full-time job. I have kids, so my schedule changes. Things change. I do all my own programming, which updates, you know, week to week sometimes. So a lot of that to me showcases like just what normal really is. Really wish more lifters, advanced lifters, you know, more like professional lifters, I wish they were more transparent with how their day-to-day really affected their training and life. Really wanted to be transparent when it came to my programming. If you like this stuff, subscribing to my channel helps me out a ton. Liking the video helps me out a ton. Let's get back to the workout and let's see what we can do in this top set. All right, well, you know, I shouldn't really be super surprised anymore, but I don't know what to say with that. That moved super well. That moved like extremely well. So 285 for a double moved like child's play, and honestly moved as if I have never had a ceiling on my bench at all. So 285 we did for a double at an RP like 7.5. We'll just call it an 8, we'll say, which is crazy. Got squats right now. All we're doing with this is honestly, it's just like practice. That's all. So part of this is just practicing our setup, practicing our run rack. What we're doing is we're getting like the skill down. We're just practicing the skill of squatting, squatting to competition standards, stuff like that. So, this close to the meet for some lifts. I'm gonna say that, like deadlift for sure. Specificity is kind of where we want to be. Squat, I think you can get away with. Like let's go back to deadlift. Deadlift, I feel like the majority of your training, the majority of the year, especially if you're gonna pull sumo, needs to be very specific. I almost feel like a lot of sumo pullers do really well to pull their heavy stuff on sumo, and then their secondary be sumo, a pause variation of that, you know, or even like a conventional. But even that runs out very, very quickly, especially when it comes to meet prep, because some guys are only going to pull once a week too anyways. Squat, I feel like you can get away with a little bit more. It's not so much of right when you start like a longer prep, like a 12 or 16 or 24 week prep, whatever you're doing, or 20 some week prep. I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, how far out are you from the meet? And for deadlift, I feel like 80, 70% of your training needs to be at your comp standards, and the secondary movements need to be very slim. But comes a squat, I feel like you can get away with doing variations, pause, SSBs, fronts, and you only really need to switch that specificity right towards the end. And bench, I feel like bench you can get away with pretty much up to the meet. I mean, there's a point where if your third bench, it's dumbbell press, but it works, then who cares? Hit your dumbbell press. If it's you're doing incline, and the incline is the only thing really moving your bench, I feel like you could do that right up until almost until the week of. I mean, look at me, I'm doing close grip up until the week of, because that last week is just cut fatigue. And bench, I feel like it's so easy to get rid of fatigue anyways. I feel like we can cut fatigue on bench in a day. So that specificity doesn't need to be extremely there. All right, I'm gonna hit some accessories and then kind of head out of here. But don't really want to record it, to be honest with you. So I don't feel like talking anymore. We're gonna do some tricep push downs, some lat pull downs. You guys have seen it 1,000 times. Oh, whatever. But yeah, my main point with like the peak and stuff is we need to be very unspecific. I feel like for far out from the meet, and as we get closer, the lifts kind of change to where we become more and more specific. And as we get closer to the meet, I think we need to become more specific in what we do. So squats, we need to squat more. Bench, we need to bench more. It needs to look more like our competition stuff, you know. But that does not also mean, or that to me, that does mean that like when we get close to the meet, we continue to train up until the meet, you know, and we use like the last week to cut fatigue. And by week, we use like the last like 5 days, 4 days to cut fatigue. We don't need 2 weeks, a month, an entire week off to cut fatigue. As we become more specific, I feel like our nervous systems can get overloaded, but I feel like our nervous systems can kind of catch what we're doing here, and squats are squats. And we can kind of just be like, okay, we're just squatting. That's all we're doing. And we can get that hyper specificity like in there, to where we're only just squatting, just like the comp. And then we use like the last 4 days to really just cut fatigue by, you know, lowering the intensity, lowering the volume. And honestly, for me, I don't even really lower intensity. I do on the top end, like top sets and all that stuff, but my back offs are pretty similar to the same, and all of my accessory work is the same because I want the same stimulus to go. So that way my fatigue can hopefully stay pretty high up. And as that week goes down, the stimulus is here and that fatigue finally starts to creep down below, to where a day or two out is really where that fatigue should hopefully just like plummet to where we feel super fresh going into meet. And I think that's where a lot of people get their prep wrong, but I don't know. Maybe that's just my thoughts. We're gonna see how this goes. Maybe I'm just talking just to talk because I don't know yet. So, but you have a week and a half though, so we're gonna see here in a little bit. So there's no outro around here, so the video will just cut off, and that's it.